The Life of Enji Todoroki, Endeavor, My Hero Academia. Enji Todoroki, also known as the Flame Hero Endeavor, is the pro hero with the highest tally of resolved cases in history, husband to Rei Todoroki, and father of Toya, Fuyumi, Natsuo, and Shoto Todoroki. Following All Might's retirement, Enji temporarily became the #1 hero after being the #2 hero for a very long time, and after the latest Hero Billboard Chart JP announcement, officially became the #1 hero. Welcome to the Imagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of Enji Todoroki. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Imagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media accounts. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Background. Enji Todoroki desired to be the top hero and dedicated most of his life to it, and at age 20, he already climbed to the #2 position. However, All Might was always the most popular hero, and eventually, Enji realized the gap was way too big and began to hold a sense of fear and begrudging respect towards the latter. Despite his efforts, he couldn't surpass All Might, so he decided to change strategy and conceive a child powerful enough to fulfill his goal in his place. For that reason, Enji married Rei Himura, after negotiating with her family to a quirk marriage in order to get his hands on her ice quirk. Enji attempted to conceive and raise a child strong enough to usurp All Might. Despite being an arranged marriage, Enji really had feelings for Rei, and so the first few years went well. When he was 22 years old, their first son Toya was born with a fire quirk that was even more powerful than Enji's Hellflame quirk. Despite not inheriting his mother's ice quirk to overcome the downside of overheating, he still planned on raising him to be a hero. He still sought a child who would inherit the quirks of fire and ice, and Rei wanted more children, believing they could encourage each other, which ultimately led to Fuyumi's birth. Sadly, she only inherited Rei's ice quirk, but he was still happy either way because he felt that since Toya had more potential, he could place all his ambitions on him. However, his plans were cut short when he discovered that Toya inherited the weak constitution of his mother Rei Todoroki, which made him vulnerable to heat and therefore limiting the use of his fire quirk, causing burns on his skin if he abused it. No longer wanting to train him and being unable to make Toya himself quit, Enji decided to have more children, hoping Toya would finally give up on his ambition to become a hero, which ultimately led to the birth of his third child, Natsuo, and eventually Shoto. It's implied that around that time, Endeavor's obsession with conceiving the perfect child who would inherit both his Hellflame quirk and Rei's ice quirk grew and showed signs of his attitude and relationship towards his family beginning to worsen. Enji eventually found his masterpiece in his fourth child, Shoto, pushing aside and ignoring the rest of his children who he deemed as failures. This rejection especially affected his firstborn, Toya, who was secretly training to regain his father's affection. Enji told him to stop because he's hurting himself and advised him to look beyond the world of being a hero and do things like play with his siblings or make friends at school. Crying, Toya replied he can't. After all, he was the one who lit the fire in him to surpass All Might, teaching him to never give up. When the rest of the family came to see what was happening, Toya tells his father to look at him as he charged with his flames activated at his mother carrying an infant Shoto. He was stopped before he could hurt anyone. But after Toya's outburst, Enji decided to ban the other siblings from interacting with Shoto so he can focus on his training, and entrusted Rei to look after Toya. When Rei said that all Toya wants is for his father to acknowledge him, Enji replied that all he can show anyone is the world of heroes, to which Rei scathingly replied that he's just running away from his problems. When Shoto was 5 years old, Enji began training him to become a hero. However, the training was harsh and detestable. Rei tried to defend Shoto, saying that he was too young, but Enji refused to listen and ordered her to stay out of his way, hitting her for interfering. Enji also prevented Shoto from interacting with his older brothers and sister. Meanwhile, Toya continued to train in secret until one day, during the winter season, he got his fire quirk to grow stronger. Shortly afterwards, excited to show his father how he had developed, Toya asked him to come to Sekoto Peak the next time he had a day off. Enji, however, lifted up his shirt and saw his burn scars, angry that Toya had been training again. But his son was adamant that he was destined for greatness and determined to make his father proud of him. Frustrated, Enji ignored his eldest son's pleas and hit Rei for not stopping Toya, causing Shoto to yell at him to not bully her. Enji told his youngest son to stay out of it. Rei confessed to her husband that she couldn't stop Toya. His worsening behavior began to affect Rei, to the point that she began to see her husband's face in her children, until one day she snapped and threw boiling water at Shoto's face. After this incident, Enji had her admitted to a mental hospital. After learning of this, Shoto angrily blamed him